Thanks for coming. Wrap up a Saturday's game. Very similar to what I said after the game on Saturday night. Really happy for our team to come through with a resilient victory. A lot of guys stepped up in tough moments and played really, really well. A different game from the flow of the game. In the first half, obviously, I thought we were a little stagnant, and a couple third downs that we didn't lead to very many plays on offense due to their ability to sustain drives. I credit our defense there to step up and make some key stops. Able to get a touchdown going into half, which I thought was a big momentum swing. And then obviously in the second half, not many rushing yards from San Jose at all. A really good, stout defensive performance throughout the entire second half. And then when we had to score there, with our backs against the wall, Chris made a great play and got us a defensive touchdown. And then we were able to run the clock out and win the game. So some good individual performances. A lot of guys had winning grades. Penny Boone, I think, was MAC West Player of the Week, and rightfully so. Had a great game. He was our in-house here MVP on offense. Dallas Gant was an MVP on defense along with Chris, and then special teams wise, I thought Emilio punted the ball extremely well and had a great day. So lots of things to correct, lots of things to build off of, and as we move forward here to MAC play. So conference has historically been a really tough road and a gauntlet type schedule as you go through this thing, and this first one will be a tremendous challenge because these guys kicked our tail last year. So that being said, I'll take your questions.
Looking forward to Western. You learned these teams in your division so well. Obviously, new coaching staff, a lot of transfers in and out. Are they kind of a total mystery to you now? Well,
defensively, they retained their defensive coordinator, so a lot of familiarity there. A lot of terminology, I'm sure, is similar. And they play a high tempo, aggressive style. They're going to come after you and blitz you all over the place. And no matter what personnel grouping you're in, they're going to come pin their ears back and challenge you. So you got to block them. You got to be sound in your communication. You got to make some plays on the perimeter because they're going to challenge your receivers too. So offensively, a little bit different, but I still think that old staff, new staff. I mean, both of these guys I think have done a good job. Trying to rally around and build a plan around the quarterback that can be successful. They're running the ball a little bit better than maybe they have in years past. But I still think it's very quarterback driven in the sense of trying to get that guy in the rhythm and make him comfortable. So, and I think the personnel piece of it, our guys are familiar with a lot of guys on the roster, and our leagues are pretty much a regionally recruited league. So, there's some familiarity there, and I think there's newness in the staff, but also some familiarity.
Toledo and the surrounding Northwest Ohio area generally has good talent in high school. You guys have a lot of local guys every year on your team. It seems like there's more that are making a direct impact this year than ever. Obviously, at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't matter when you play well, you just want to play well. But what do you think it does for the community when they see those local familiar names making?
Well, I think it's huge. I mean, obviously, I got a lot of respect for the high school football coaches in the city and in Northwest Ohio and really the state of Michigan. I think is very underrated. I saw, I think the other day that Detroit has the most NFL players from the hometowns in the NFL and active roster. So right here in our local area, we got a really good group to recruit from. We're always going to start in that footprint and work outward. I think some of the guys you're mentioning have been in our program for a long time. We recruited them and offered them scholarships in their junior year, and some of them are now in their fourth, fifth, and in their sixth year here. And I think have done a really, really good job. I think it's really as a young freshman in Emilio's case or Braden All's case, like Connor Wallensack's case, those guys I think have a leg up maybe because they're local and they can maybe get ingrained into the program a little bit sooner than maybe if you went to school far away and you had to fly and just show up and figure it out. So I think those guys have taken advantage of those opportunities. Tyson Anderson did that very well. Brian Kovac did that at a high level. Storm Norton did that at a high level. Marquise Moore did that at a high level. Lots of guys right here from our footprint that went on and were very successful in football and other things here. So we have a plan to do that. And like I said, I think there's good players in our area, and we've been able to get most of them to stay home.
I know UMass game is still there, but you're essentially starting your conference portion of the schedule now. What's the right set of non-conference games to prepare you for the MAC?
I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I think it all depends on. There's so many variables and so many different things that play into getting a team prepared. I view preseason camp as getting ready to win and go win the first game, and to play well in the early quarter of the season. We're past the early quarter of the season now. You got 3 games in your belt, and like these next 3 are going to be a different animal. I think by now you've tried to find and have created an identity in all 3 phases of the game of what you want to be. A different flow to each game, right? Like Illinois, a nip and tuck game all the way to the finish. Second game was a very lopsided, one-sided game right from the start. And then Saturday, a very odd flow to that game too. So some guys have played a normally high number of reps. Other guys that I still think will impact our team at a very high level haven't played much at all. So, what's the right balance there? I don't know if I have an answer. I think it takes on its own different identity each year.
Toledo's never, chased the dollar or whatever and played 2 or 3 top 25 teams. Let's say. Mm-hmm. Like, do you feel like? I mean, sometimes you see a lot of injuries in those type of games. Can you just completely overexert yourself before you get to the MAC schedule?
I don't know. I still think you're going to play, no matter what your schedule looks like, from a health and safety standpoint, you're going to play another group of 18 to 22-year-old people that train just like you do and all that stuff. Like, I think the perception of you go play Alabama that all your players are going to run into a brick wall and see if they still stand up afterwards. Like, I don't think that's real. Are those games harder to win, and do they take more toll on your players than maybe what we had in week 2? Yeah, certainly. But football is football. This is a collision sport. This is Division I. Everybody's got scholarships. Everybody's in the same age group, and it's a violent game. So your injuries are going to show up all over the place. I mean, we've lived that and seen that movie before here. Preseason practice guys going down. So this isn't golf or tennis where you're kind of protected and you got to have a smooth swing and continue to improve on that. Like, this is another grown man chasing you down, and there's going to be contact and there's going to be collisions and things happen.
One of the themes of the offseason, it seemed like people talked about, you lost Deswan, Jamal, these guys. Like, what's going to happen? It really doesn't seem like there's been a drop-off at all on the D-line. Just what do you think of the depth there? And there's a lot of different guys. Like last year, you kind of thought, Deswan, Jamal, most of them played. But it seems like there's a lot of different guys making it. Yeah,
well, I see a couple of our D linemen here that you guys have brought in here to talk to, and I think they would probably attest to what I'm trying to say here is that they have worked collectively as a group they heard those same things. And anytime there's a really good player that moves on, and those 2 guys that you mentioned are elite players and had an abnormally amount of career starts because they were elite players, there's guys that are waited patiently to have their turn. And when I say waited patiently, it doesn't mean a guy just sits and doesn't work. They waited patiently from hey, I'm going to be a really solid backup, and this guy needs a break or he goes down. I'm ready to go, and I'm going to play at a high level when I get my opportunity. Well, those guys didn't get hurt. They just graduated and moved on, and now these guys are getting their opportunity to shine. Frank has done an unbelievable job with that group, getting more guys prepared and to have a fluid rotation. I don't know if, the approach of a lot of guys and guys being fresh in key moments, I think showed up Saturday night. A lot of guys are getting in there and they're doing what they're coached to do, and they're not trying to do something that they're not coached to do. They're not jumping into another gap when they're supposed to be in their gap. They're playing good, sound team defense, and Saturday night they reap the benefits of that. So I think that's shown up quite a bit, and I like what's going on in that room. I like the authentic communication, and I like the vibe in the field that a lot of guys can go in and affect the game. And that's been a formula that's worked to this point in time. Will that work all year? I don't know. I hope so, because like I said, I'm a firm believer if a guy's deserving and has worked its time and put his time and energy into it, and he's shown it on film and practice, that he should get some opportunities in the game. So, I like where we're at there.
Similarly, the offensive backfield, you have enjoyed having John Close last week. Doesn't matter. Do you feel very comfortable with the amount of guys that you have there that can carry the football?
Yeah, I answered this question all offseason too. It's like, well, who's the primary running back? I mean, I don't know. I think that me being the head football coach, like I would, if I didn't feel good about the situation, I would have went out and got a primary running back. I went out and got in the portal and got the best running back I possibly could find. But I feel more than confident that those guys can go in and do the job at a high level. Sometimes it's for various reasons. Like some guys got a bruise here, there, or somebody's dinged up this way, and some guys got to come in and do a little bit more. And he got a little bit more touches maybe than he would have the last couple of weeks with Jock being out, and handled it and did a great job. Did a fantastic job in all the phases of it. Protected the quarterback well, caught the ball in the backfield, and ran his tail off. So Willie Shaw did the same. And those guys came in there and spelled what we thought would have been a loss from not having Jock, and did a really, really good job. So sign of depth, sign of a good team, sign of a good chemistry and a good locker room, and sign of a good room. And I think what Coach Cole's done there is kind of made it very evident, very clear that no matter where you're at on the depth chart, you could be thrown in there at any moment. You got to produce, and all those guys that are the outside edge guys on the defensive line that you mentioned, all these running backs, like these guys want to play football after college. Like they have to be great special teams players, or probably not going to be drafted. They're not going to sign NFL contracts. So I see those guys buying into that and trying to make an impact that way too, which is I think helps the team and certainly helps their career moving forward individually.
To piggyback off that, with all the options you have on offense, to be able to run the ball effectively, what does that do opening up for you guys? And has that been an emphasis to kind of establish that run early?
I mean, I don't know. Since I've been the offensive coordinator and the head coach here, like that's always been our thing. I mean, we're going to run the football, and we have to stay balanced that way. I think that sets the table for everything that you do. If you can run it effectively, that allows you to have, impactful options in the play action passing game. It doesn't, allow your quarterback to have to drop back pass 50, 60 times a game and throw a bunch of 3-yard passes. You can actually take shots down the field, and that's been the formula that we've had for a long time here. So, I mean, you have to be able to run the football for multiple reasons. Ultimately, you want to be able to dictate the pace of the game, and that allows you to do that. You saw ourselves get into a situation where we're in a tight game and we're up, and we have to kill the clock and get out of there. And it's not kill the clock and just take 3 knees. You got to get first downs, and you got to get tough first downs, and you want high percentage plays. So when you're able to run downhill, gain positive yards, and have the ability to break tackles with good players and, get a hat on a hat, and the guys on the perimeter buy into the perimeter blocking of it, usually leads to success, and that's what you saw Saturday night.
Obviously, a lot of that falls on the offensive line. Just how impressed have you been with their play so far?
Yeah, they've been really good. Not a lot of communication errors, not a lot of pre-snap operation, mess-ups. I think – we've kind of made it a point that if one's wrong, we're all wrong, or we're all right. And you've seen a group that's played together from the very start of the season all the way through to this time, and maintained great continuity. I think a very physical group in the core. And then, like I said, when we have to pass and we have to drop back pass, they've done a good job protecting the quarterback to this point in time. And I've said this before too. It takes to pass the football effectively. It takes a great offensive line. It takes really good edge players in the tight end and the running back that have to be involved in the pass protection. And then the underrated thing, and I think, is the quarterback has to have a clock in his head and has to have an idea when to get the football out of his hand. Because I think sometimes stats get thrown on, or sacks as a statistic get thrown on the offensive line. But to me, that's a quarterback stat line as well. He can be responsible for those sometimes. So all 3 of those, parts being on the same page is critically important. And to this point in time, we've done a good job.
Not that preparation changes for any opponent, but with it being a MAC opponent this weekend, is there any elevation in terms of that preparation?
Yeah, I mean, this is the conference schedule. This is, you win one, it almost counts as 2 games. You know what I mean? So you want to get out in front, you want to get a lead, and you want to get a jump on the league schedule. We benefited from that last year and played really well early in the MAC schedule, and it's a point of emphasis because you don't want to get behind and have to at the end of the year be looking ahead and waiting for somebody to make a mistake. So got to have a great week of practice. Control you can kind of control your own destiny if you play well and get out to a good start here. So that's been the point. It's still week 4 of the season. There's still a lot of mistakes and a lot of things we got to continue to correct, and we'll have those correction periods through practice. But full speed ahead and full attention to Western Michigan.
You're now halfway through this 4-game homestand. Have you seen any glaring, benefits of not having to have travel? I know you guys only do it a couple days a week if you do on the road, but have you noticed
I think there's pluses and minuses to everything. Obviously, our routine is comfortable here. Having our seniors honored Saturday was a big deal. A lot of families here for the game, from guys that are out of town, that kind of thing. I think that's great for the environment's great for the spirit and the psyche of our team. Our crowds have been really good the first couple weeks, but I would also tell you too, like there's something that I like to get on a bus on a Friday and drive to wherever, and have to be away with just the team too. You know what I mean? So you're going to have 6 home games every year. You're going to have 6 away games every year. Where they fall, where they go, what that looks like, how that all plays itself out. We don't really get too caught up into that. Stick to our routine, what Monday through Saturday looks like. Go prepare like crazy, and wake up on Saturday morning ready to play really well.
You mentioned Western Michigan. You guys went there, lost. They kicked your tail last year. What challenges do they present this year, being that they brought 2 of their 3 running backs back, 2 of their quarterbacks back? Like you said, their staff is pretty much the same. What challenges go into this week?
Yeah, good team. And a team that, like to Kyle's question, very familiar with us, and same thing. We're familiar with them. So, very physical football team. Coach has done a good job in his short amount of time. The head coach, his short amount of time that he's been there, of ingraining the culture and putting his stamp on things. And they want to play with great discipline. They want to have a great attitude and play with toughness, just like we do. And to win in this league, you have to have that. And I think that they've done a good job up until this point in time, trying to get the core principles taught to their players, or what they expect and what their expectations are. And our kids are doing a good job trying to play to that standard. And I don't think that'll be any different this weekend.
An off-topic question. The whole Aaron Rodgers thing brought up this big field turf grass debate. As a player, coach, do you have a preference on what surface you play on?
Yeah, obviously as a player, a skill player when I played, so I wanted to play on the best surface every week, and if that was turf, that's turf. If it's grass, it's grass, depending on if it's raining or not. But as a fat old man now, as a coach, I'd love to play on grass every week because that turf hurts my back standing out there all day. But I don't think it's really about me. I think it's about these players and keeping them safe. I think it's about the young people that we're, bringing into our programs. And I don't think that, either way, I don't think there's a skewed opinion here from we got more injuries than maybe, if we had grass versus we have had turf. I know it's a topic of discussion that will continually come up. But yeah, I'm whatever the numbers say for player safety, I would be all for that. If that answers it.
Are you faster on grass or trees?
Slow is slow no matter where you run at.